this Harley Benton ST-20, and it cost around 90 euros, and I don't know exactly how it translates to other currencies, but yeah, then we have this Fender made in Mexico that is about 600 euros. And then we have this Affinity Squier, and it's about maybe 230 euros. And then I actually have another, this Cort guitar. I don't know exactly how much it is. I think it's around 200 as well. And maybe you can already notice that this Cort have a smaller body. Now I have changed a lot of things. Maybe you can see in this Squier I also changed to another Seymour Duncan humbucker and another dual rail humbucker. But I will actually talk about Strat style guitars. Depending on how much you know about guitars, then a Strat have a quite unique and pleasing sound, and it's quite different from this more like super Strat guitars, and I will focus on the Strat style, but yes. So I think for many, the main question can be why maybe you want to buy your first guitar, or you want a decent Strat. Is it that much of a difference from a Fender Made in Mexico between a Squier, for instance, or this Harley Benton? Because this is you get a lot of Harley Bentons for this other price. You get 2 Harley Bentons for a Squier or this Cort, or up to maybe 6 or something for this Fender price. So is this Fender price really reasonable? Yeah, and for this comparison I use 9 to 42 strings on all the guitars, and this video is not sponsored in any way. I have paid for all these guitars with my own money, and yeah, I love guitars. I enjoy changing hardware and fixing them. Actually, this Cort guitar I bought second hand and for a quite cheap price, and it was very badly set up, so it must have been a nightmare to play. But then once I set it up, I think it's very nice to play. So here we have these 2 Strat style guitars, one real from Fender made in Mexico, and then this Harley Benton ST-20. And yeah, now this Harley Benton have seen some upgrades, but I will talk about it before it's saw these upgrades. Yeah, so what I can say, we can first have a look at the tuners. This is some, yeah, so this have some closed tuners. It have a neck with a skunk stripe. This one actually, it have 3 of these original tuners, and I changed to 3 other locking tuners. And I changed this one of the string trees to roller. This is not necessary, I think. Yes, so let's have a look at the nut width. It says about 1.9 inches, or around 42 millimeters. And for the Fender, it also says it's actually, yeah, it's also around 1.9 or 42 millimeters. Actually, it's more like 43, I think. 42, 43. It's a little hard to show, but yeah. And then for this next, And this ST-20 have a satin finish. I don't know exactly what the finish is on the Fender, but it's a little more sticky than this Harley Benton. And actually this profile feels more or less the same. It feels very similar, this profile. It's a modern C style profile. However, on this Fender, now I bought this used, but it had polished frets, and on this ST-20 it did not come with polished frets, so I actually spent a lot of time polishing all of these frets, because when it was not polished it made a scraping sound. I will include a clip about that. The frets, they are not polished on the Harley Benton guitar, which they are on the Affinity. So that's a difference. Actually on this one, the top side is quite smooth. Okay, that one had a little, but actually the lower bands here need some grinding. On the ST-20 on the other hand, they are very smooth here. They have done a very good job here. And so I think these fret bands need some polishing. In else it feels very good. For this body, this Harley Benton is extremely heavy. I think this finish is on the other hand very nice, very beautiful. And it's made out of basswood, it's called. And for this Fender it's made of alder. It's also quite heavy. And I have to mention this now directly, that this Squier is actually lighter than this Fender, but it's also have a older body. And we can see on this Harley Benton, I hope I can show, it's a bit hard to do, but it is made out of one, two, three, maybe even 4 pieces. I don't know if you can see anything. Can I see something myself? No, it's very hard to show, but you have to trust me. So this Harley Benton is maybe out, I think it's 4 pieces. This Made in Mexico is made of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces as well, I think. And this Affinity is made out of 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 pieces as well. This Cort actually looks like one solid piece, but I guess this is not the case. But you can, in these other guitars, you can see like some split in this lacquer, in this varnish, where these pieces goes actually. So yeah, I will see if I can put in some other things now. This Harley Benton have changed a lot of hardware, but I can tell you that this included the ceramic single coil pickups. They were crap. Actually, not good at all. And I think for this Fender Made in Mexico, I think these single coils, they sound very good. They're clean. They have a typical Strat sound, and they offer quite much a variety. I know there's these others more 60s or 50s style. I guess this is a little more modern kind of sound, but I really enjoy the sound. And for the Squier, now I changed his pickups, but I think the included humbucker was quite okay, but the Seymour Duncan is better, needless to say. And these ceramic pickups, they are quite okay, but they to me they don't really sound like a Strat is supposed to. So in some sense it's a little, how to say, misleading or disappointment. They sound warm and they sound good, but they don't really give this same Strat sound as this Fender. Yeah, and since we are here, I will also show this, and this is my biggest problem with this Squier guitar. This nut width is on maybe just 1.6 inches or around 40 millimeters, and I noticed for me that this is much too thin for my quite large fingers. So yeah, this neck, it's also it's a quite nice feel to this neck. It's more like a satin finish compared to the Fender. You can feel directly that it's thinner. So maybe if you're a child or a person with small hands or thin fingers, I think this could be quite good option anyway. On this Squier, I had the problem that some of these fret edges were very hard and needed to be filed down. For this Fender, now I bought it used, but I have had no problems with these frets, both with polishing and the edges. And yeah, I can mention that this Squier came with polished frets. Yeah, so I would say this is also a modern C style profile. And yeah, for this hardware and else, this Harley Benton also have this. It's a 6 screw tremolo, quite standard. It have a quite small this block. For the Fender, it have a 2-point tremolo and a big block behind. Then that's quite nice. And for this Affinity, it also have this 6-string and quite small block. So I think you cannot expect too much about these tremolos that are with this 6 screws style and in this price range. And it's interesting with this Cort, they actually have given up this trem idea, and they have a hardtail bridge instead. Yeah, and I can mention that this ceramic pickups in this Cort sounds really good. I will actually maybe compare with this Fender later. It's on this Strat edge anyway. Yes. And for this Cort, it have a more chunky neck. Since it's a little smaller guitar, it seems to have the more or less a little maybe or more or less the same scale length anyway. And while we're at it, we should look at this nut width as well, and it says 1.7 inches or around 42 millimeters. I must say this Cort is the lightest of the one, but it's maybe not so fair to compare because it's have a smaller body, as you can see. But this Cort guitar, it's made in Indonesia, and it's very well built. I really like this guitar. I think they've done an amazing job. I think the fretboards looks very nice on both the Squier and the Fender. So actually, now I wanted to wrap up things. For this Harley Benton, I have put quite much work into polishing these frets. It took several hours. And if you buy this Squier, you get polished frets. I don't know how many hours it took, maybe 4 hours or something. So if you value your time or don't know how to do it, maybe it's a better idea to buy the Squier. I bought this Squier online, and I didn't know this nut width was too small for me. So I will actually sell this, or maybe take away the neck and sell that one if I can replace it with some other. So if you want this Strat sound, I think neither this Harley Benton will do it for you or this Squier. I think this pickup sounds nice, and if you don't need this pure Strat sound, then you can go with the Squier. because these pickups, both this original humbucker and these single coils, they sound good, they sound warm, and they sound clean. But so they maybe offer a more modern sound, but it's not this real Strat sound, and it's quite big difference, I would say, between this real Fender, this made in Mexico, and this Squier. So and for this Harley Benton, I think these stock pickups, they were ceramic and they're much too hot. So it's very hard to play things clean, and even if you play things distorted, it sounds strange because it has its own distortion already before hitting the pedals or your amp. And yeah, I think maybe it's some of the worst ceramic pickups I've heard so far. But for the price, yeah, this neck is very good for this price, I think. Some of the tuners have some problems, so I actually had to replace them. That's something to keep in mind. I think this Squier Affinity, it doesn't have the best tuners. They look very similar to this Harley Benton style. This is these closed, today quite standard tuners. Yeah, I think you will have a bad experience with the tuning, and actually the tuning is very dependent on the nut. And I think both the Fender have an excellent nut. I don't know what it's made out. I think it's some plastic, but it's very good. And I think the Squier nut is decent as well. Yeah, so as I said, this Harley Benton stock pickups was not good. You can buy Fender pickups maybe for around 100 euros as well. Then you have actually paid 190 euros more or less for this guitar. Maybe you also want to do something with these tuners, I don't know. And then you also need to put maybe around 4 hours of work plus some work to change these pickups, and you need some soldering skills. So I don't know how much that is worth for you. Maybe for me, maybe it takes 50 minutes to change the pickups. But yeah, and for this Squier, one idea would be to buy a Squier and then add better pickups. It could be a good idea. And then now they actually have this new 2-point trem. I have no experience of this trem so far. But the deal breaker is this neck that is too thin for my fat fingers. But yeah, so for this Squier, if you want a Strat, then I think these pickups don't do it. The pickups are nice if you want some other more modern sound, but it's they don't have this Strat sound. And yeah, I'm a little disappointed that on these fret edges that were very sharp. It also took some work to file down. On the other hand, I think it's a very beautiful guitar and unique, and some of the new Squier Affinities, maybe they're not called Affinities anymore, but they have this new 2-point trem. They look very beautiful, and I don't know if you care about that. If you don't care about the looks, then maybe you can go for something else. Yeah, but yeah, so for this Affinity, either if you buy a new one or have this older like this Affinity, the build quality is good. I think if you want the Strat sound, you need to buy this Affinity, and then you also need to buy new pickups. You don't need to change the tuners. Maybe you need to file down these sharp frets if it comes with sharp frets. But yeah, then you will be up to maybe 300 euros, and it's still, or maybe a little more, but it's still around half the price of a Fender. And yeah, now I don't know if these other Squiers have a better neck. For this made in Mexico Fender, I think you have to do nothing out of the box. Now I bought it used, so I don't know if this previous owner have made something. And this nut is maybe still a little and this neck is maybe still a little too thin for me. So maybe I do really want a Strat style guitar because I like the Strat sound, and I think I would like one guitar with Strat sound. So for this Harley Benton ST-20, you need to change these pickups. I think they are not. They will make you unhappy, and maybe you can buy these Fender pickups for around 100 euros. Then you're up to 190. Then you need to put maybe 4 or 5 hours into this guitar, changing the pickups and changing, polishing these frets. And I would advise maybe it's a little how lucky you are, but maybe you need even to change these tuners. And actually, if you, I would suggest buying a Graphtec nut as well. The Graphtec nut is about 10 euros. Then you are up to 200 euros already. And if you change these tuners or not, for me I noticed actually it maybe was 1 or 2 tuners that was bad, but I changed this lower to these locking tuners, and it made a big deal on this tuning stability. But say you would not change these tuners, then you are this guitar cost around 200 euros plus your time, maybe around 5 hours to make this a nice guitar. And I don't know how much 5 hours is worth for you, and if you're like me, very interested in guitars, then it's maybe not so much of a big deal. And then for this Fender, it's about 600 euros, and you have to do nothing. This pickup sounds excellent, very nice. Maybe the 60s style pickups is even better, but I like this maybe more modern sound. I think it's nothing to complain about. This one, I've changed this pickguard to a blue one. You don't need to do that. It was just a matter of appearance. And for the Squier, it's a little more than 200, maybe 230 euros. I would still, it depends on what configuration you want. I think this original humbucker was okay. And then you need 2 single coils. For this Fender they sell free in packs of 3 these pickups, so maybe you can mount 2 of them and sell the bridge pickup. But then you're up to maybe 300 euros, and for sure this 2-point trem is much better than this 6-point, so you have to take that in consideration. The Fender have better tuners as well, but I think the Squier ones are okay. I don't know about this new Squiers that have this 2-point trem, and if they have a wider neck as well. In that case, maybe I would consider it as a nice and good guitar, because then you just change the pickups, and then you're you have to file down the frets as well. Maybe that takes 1 hour, I don't know. And pickups are quite fast if you know how to solder and so. But then you're about maybe 300 euros, so it's still half the price of this Fender. And I can clearly say that this Fender made in Mexico. I have no experience about this American made, but it's a better guitar in many ways. It's a little more heavy, but I think this Squier with new pickups and better tremolo and maybe wider, it is not, it would be a nice guitar. And some is this Cort. I think it's extremely well built, and maybe even like it more than this Squier. However, if you are not just in for this Strat sound, then there are plenty other options that maybe even is better than this Squier. But that we will talk about in another video. Yeah, so I will play this Harley Benton Unplugged a little to hopefully you can hear something about the sound in the body. I think it have an excellent sustain actually. Now for the Fender, do the same thing. Yeah, and I noticed that you feel much more in this body. This guitar vibrates or resonates more than this Harley Benton guitar. I think it have a little more bass. Yeah, so and I think the sustain was a little longer as well, but not very much difference. I think the Harley Benton is okay, I guess. And let's go for this Squier. So yeah, we have the Squier here, and we'll do the same thing. Yeah, I think the Squier have a very good sustain as well. It's not as vibrant as this Fender and this body, and it actually it sounds much less than both this Fender and Harley Benton playing this Unplugged. So it's very different in resonance, but it sounds good and have a good sustain. So yeah, nothing to complain about really. So then up for the Cort guitar. Yeah, this is even it's quite small. I think it feels quite nice. I think it's maybe more suited towards children. And I forgot to mention it also have this cut in. It's make it quite easy to play on these frets. I actually like that. Yeah, so let's play the same thing. Yeah, and I can see they have a more low frequency sustain than the other guitars. And yeah, it feels quite much like the Fender actually. It sounds much less unplugged than both the Fender and Harley Benton. Compared to the Affinity, maybe they are about the same actually. So yeah, this is electric guitars, but I wanted to give you some idea about this sound quality in the body and neck and so on. And I think all of these guitars are well qualified. Maybe I prefer the Fender the most because it you really felt this resonance when holding it. Yeah, but not a big deal I think. Yeah, so I promised you to play a little on this Cort, which have this ceramic. It's also this single coil set up like this Fender. So I'm in tuning, then we don't have any sound. This is the neck pickup. It's it doesn't have this Strat quack. It sounds very quite much bass, and It sounds warm and good, however, but it doesn't sound Strat. For the second position, what should I play? I don't know. And yeah, maybe a little more. They're quite similar. I think actually, yeah, now it's for this middle. It sounds warm, it sounds quite clean, but Strat sound not really. Can go for the bridge first. Yeah, this bridge sound in Strat territory. Also this fourth position, but it's a little more bass. Yeah, I think this fourth position is the most Strat. Yeah, also the bridge is quite fine if you want this Strat style sound. This pickup sounds quite much bass compared to real Nico 5 single coils. Sounds quite warm, and in general, this pickup sounds very good for being ceramic, but it's not a Strat sound. Totally, maybe for this 4th and 5 it's okay. So yeah, this is just to give you an idea. So now for the Fender, this is a neck. Yeah, quite warm and bass, but usually this is the case when you have a pickup in this neck position, because the strings vibrate more in this position than in the others. This is the second position. Very Strat sounding, I think. And then the middle. Not that rich in bass, but quite nice. Then for the bridge. This bridge have almost no bass at all. Maybe it's hard to hear, but yeah, also sounds very classic. Fourth position. And yeah, and actually, yeah, I can already say that it's much less bass than this Cort guitar, and also more open sound, I think. And the second position. This sounds very good. I don't know if this sound captured by my amp is around 30 centimeters from this phone, if it really makes its justice, but this single coil pickups, they are very clear and they have a nice airy sound to them. Not so rich in bass, but I think it's the way they're supposed to be, but you get plenty of bass in the neck position in a way. Yeah, so I can definitely see the difference with a real Fender. This is made in Mexico. Maybe the American mades are even better. And these have a more maybe modern sound compared to 50s or 60s pickup, but I like them. I think they are a very nice offering. Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you very much for watching.